The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
In the Idaho Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, we have a right to life, we have a right to defend life.
This legislation is centered on meeting the needs of Idaho families.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
The courts have long held that our ability to transfer title on real property benefits society as a whole.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
I feel like we're back to an unappointed board that gets to decide who is essential and who is non-essential.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
And for me, it's about a couple things. It's about food security, it's about national security, and it's about preserving American exceptionalism.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Gannon, I looked at this yesterday, did some looking into things, and I was surprised that there really is a movement in the nation to have local elections with non-citizens voting, and it is happening in Vermont. Vermont Supreme Court decided that because the way their constitution was written, it did not preclude non-citizens from voting in elections. And our constitution could be interpreted the same way, the way it is written now. It's not exclusive. It could be interpreted with good attorneys and judges that I would disagree with, that we could allow non-citizens to vote in elections. There is a movement. It's, these different movements come up, and I was surprised. The Brennan Center, ACLU, Chinese for Affirmative Action are all actively supporting this type of thing across the nation to get non-citizens to vote based on being residents of a community, not based on citizenship. Again, there are legal arguments in the courts that sometimes prevail now, allowing non-citizens to vote. And that Vermont Supreme Court was in 2023. I don't have the exact citation in front of me. But voting in Idaho, according to our Supreme Court in 1980, is a fundamental right for voting. However, there's ambiguity in the state constitution, not at first glance when you look at it, but as you look further, in light of the other court decisions, there's a bit of a loophole. So without an Idaho constitutional amendment that's being brought by my favorite cowboy legislator, future courts or legislators could expand the right of voting to non-citizens in Idaho. With that, there is no explicit prohibition in our state constitution for non-citizens to vote. So simply because the Constitution affords the right of citizens to vote does not exclude non-citizens. That's how it gets interpreted and twisted around in the courts. So I really think this is an important one.
Okay, welcome to Idaho Signal. We are on the air. This is an important bill, as you could hear. Can you believe it? We need to have a bill in Idaho that would stop non-citizens from voting in our elections in Idaho. And we need this bill because there are people like Representative Achilles, the Democrat from Boise, who has made quite a name for himself over the last few weeks as he's been sat in this legislative seat because he has interesting opinions on this matter himself. So let's listen to Representative Achilles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think just a comment for Representative Skog. I mean, today in Idaho, citizens and taxpayers who are unaffiliated aren't allowed to participate in primary elections. So we do have restrictions on who's participating in our elections today. So I just want to make sure that we anchor this conversation in the system that we have today before we, I think, start chasing ghosts. I just don't. I struggle to think about a municipality in Idaho that would undertake this. And if they did, there's another element of, are we deferring and deferring to local control in terms of that municipality's right to make these decisions? And I have no idea what the reasons are. I can't, in general, I don't think this is a good idea either. But there may be some perspective on that in different localities, and I think we have to respect that a municipality or a school board may want to undertake something like this, and to cut that out is inappropriate.
This guy's a mess. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Chasing ghosts? He can't think of a municipality, or he struggles to find how this would happen in Idaho. But if it should come up, we should allow them to have their own ideas about whether or not they should allow non-citizens to vote in our elections. Are you serious? This guy's dangerous. This guy's an activist. This guy's a full-on leftist activist who wants to see the downfall of our republic. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. This guy, I mean, so let's back up here. This is a House Joint Resolution number 5 that would state that we will not allow non-citizens to vote in our elections. And Skog laid it out. The language in our Constitution and our statutes can be misinterpreted, as it is seen being misinterpreted across the country in other states. And while Achilles sits there and goes, "Well, I don't know if this would happen." But we should certainly allow it to if the people want it. I mean, it is so sinister. It is so anti-American. It is anti-American, literally, because you want non-Americans to vote in our elections. So I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that this is an anti-American stance. And forgive me, Representative Achilles, who served in our military, but is this what you were serving for, sir? Is this what you were serving for? To ensure the right to vote of non-citizens in our country and in our state? Absurd on its face. Absurd. I would never be able to be elected. I'm getting more incensed thinking about it. Unbelievable. Well, that's what we're dealing with, folks. That's what we're dealing with here. So keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on these folks. You got to keep an eye on them. And I mean, this resolution passed committee. It wasn't a shock. This was the House State Affairs Committee. So it did pass committee. Even Representative Gannon voted to pass it through the committee, the other Democrat, right? Because he understands somewhat. I kind of like watching Gannon. He brings up good arguments sometimes. He could be a little tongue-tied himself, but aren't we all? But Achilles, I mean, what was this? Chasing ghosts? This is not happening in Idaho, but if it did, we should probably allow it. He was this far away from saying this is a solution in search of a problem. He hasn't been there long enough for that to seep into his brain yet. This is offensive, absolutely offensive. Okay, anyway, you got to pay attention, folks. You got to pay attention. What we're doing right now is paying attention, as always, to the activities that are happening on the Senate and House floor. Right now in the House, Representative Petsky was presenting, and they were debating on H595, outcomes-based school funding. I love listening to Julianne Young. Let's hear what she has to say.
Say a percentage of something so that you know what you're talking about. I can't find the of what. So if you could help me with that, I would appreciate it.
Bill 21.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, good lady. Great question. So the 60% is of the percent that is allocated to the program by JFAC and by appropriation. So if and the request again was $40 million. So if it's $40 million, that 60% will be $24 million. But again, the program works regardless of whatever dollar amount the body decides to appropriate to the program. We were very intentional about that to make sure that it would work with whatever that dollar amount ends up being that works within the budget.
Take a jump, good late 30.
A follow-up?
Jump 30, 21 yield to one more question.
Happy to, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker and good gentlemen, so if I'm understanding you correctly then, this is not setting an amount. That happens in a separate process. It's another debate. This is just...
Okay, so
whatever that amount is.
They're getting into the details here. I want to keep an eye on the House because coming up is unless they push it, is House Bill 602 that Representative Dale Hawkins will be presenting. So we're going to keep an eye on this, and after this vote, we'll check in. That bill will be to bar public money from going to teachers unions or unions in general. We'll listen to Representative Hawkins present that bill. But anytime you're dealing with public money, we want to tune in and see what the debate is all about, because once again, as I've stated in the past, there are people that get elected to the legislature that feel it is their duty to work for the government and work for the agencies and spend all your money and send it here and send it there. And then there are folks that get elected that realize and understand the proper role of government is to defend our rights and to not just go up there and spend all our money. So we're going to get into some of that today, some of the money spending that they're they're contemplating. So let's move on here. So yeah, Vito Barbieri there. Okay, so what's on the rundown? What's on my list here? The House, so the House State Affairs Committee was very busy again, as always, this morning. It was very interesting to see. There was a couple of bills that dealt with how the lines in Idaho, the county lines, are defined. And apparently there's some land that actually literally by definition doesn't belong to a county. And then there's some land that is overlaps and is in two different counties at the same time. So there were some interesting bills this morning that wanted to come in and clean all that language up. So that's interesting. And if you have parcels of land that cross over into two counties, this might be important to you. So pay attention to that. I think that was... I forget. Oh, it was House Bill 630 and House Bill 646. So if you are interested in that, pay attention to those bills. Okay. The other thing that was happening this morning was, speaking of spending your money, was House Concurrent Resolution 31. So in case you didn't know, in 2026, it will be the 250th anniversary of our country. 1776, 250 years later, is 2026. So there's going to be an America 250 celebration all across the country, and Idaho is planning on celebrating as well. So they've passed, they've discussed budgeting for the Historical Society, for different departments throughout Idaho to put on festivities to celebrate America. Great. We love celebrating America. If we want to get Idaho involved in that, that's awesome. But who's going to pay for it? So this particular resolution here, House Concurrent Resolution 31, wants to set up a board, a committee that will oversee what's going to happen in Idaho. And they want, this resolution wants 1.6 million, 1.5 million. They want 1.5 million, at least one. Let's say that at least $1.5 million just to run this committee. It's not for the celebration part. It's just, from what I understanding, it's just to run this committee. So, Representative Vito Barbieri, Representative Joe Alfieri had a couple of interesting thoughts behind that. So let's listen to Representative Vito first.
Representative Andrus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we send HCR 31 to the floor with the due pass recommendation.
Committee, we have a motion. Representative Barbieri.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to support the motion because it doesn't spend any money, but I am troubled by spending more than $1.5 million on this. If the budgets are already coming through, I see that, but it's difficult to imagine that we're spending so much money to do a celebration. It's concerning.
Okay. Joe had a good point he made here as well. So let's listen to Joe Alfieri.
I'm going to support the motion as well, but I'm also troubled by the expenditure, and I wish we had found another way to pay for this, perhaps asking for donations from private industry rather than taking it out of the budget.
Imagine that. Imagine that. Hey, you guys want to have a party for America? Well, then you all have to pay for it. All of your tax dollars have to go pay for it. Come on. We're big boys here, right? We've got a state full of fantastic companies. Micron, the yogurt company, Chobani. There's plenty of big potato farms, and what's the other one? What's that guy? He donates all his money so they can get welders. What about him? Why can't they step up? If they only want $1.5 million for this committee, so why not step up for that? I mean, when you have giant corporations who are spending untowards amount of money on all sorts of other activities, that don't have anything to do with America, like pride events, Albertsons loves to sponsor the big Pride stage down in Boise during Pride Festival. How about we ask them? How about we ask them for some? And look, they may already be doing that, but Joe brought up a good point. So they should be this company should be funding the whole thing, right? This is what America's all about. Private charity, get involved. Everybody get involved. And if you want to chip in, right? Okay, let's move along here because we got a lot. What was the next clip? Oh, we got to go through. So we got to go through these bills here that happened. By the way, real quickly, yesterday we were. I neglected to say this right at the top, but yesterday we were live out in person at Life Cafe, Life Public House down in downtown Coeur d'Alene. And what a fun time we had! It was kind of a beta test also because we were trying to figure out what cameras work, how does the audio work, and you really can't do all that unless you just do it live and you figure it out. And so we did it live and we learned a lot and we figured out a lot. We thought the content was great. The team did a fantastic job. Putting it all together, and then we had a nice little healthy little crowd for for coming out there. So I thank all of you for coming out there yesterday. And what was really interesting was that so many of the folks that came out said, "Oh, we watch you all the time," which meant. But then we also had like our largest live audience ever. The numbers that were coming in that were watching live. We were like, "Oh wow, that's a lot of people watching live." But half of them are here. So those were new people. So welcome to the broadcast. Very good. And okay, so we got a vote on 595. Are they moving on to 602 over in the House? Let's bring up that live shot at the House, if you can. It'd be interesting to see what we got there. So you guys work on that. If they're doing 602, I'm going to want to go to that instead of going through some of these bills here. But we'll see. So again, thank you again for coming out yesterday. It does look like Representative Hawkins is up there. So let's listen to this bill. Let's listen to Representative Hawkins.
This bill is not a bill against teachers. This bill isn't a bill against unions. Can I permission to request to refer to pending legislation?
Unanimous has been requested to refer to pending legislation. Is there objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman will refer to pending legislation.
So in 585, we just heard about another ask for some money to improve educational abilities for our children. All this bill really does is it will prevent, the estimates are about $500,000 that are used each year that people are, while they are sitting in the position of a teacher, are being used to go to union events and do union bargaining. All this does is eliminate that when teachers are teaching, everything that doing is about teaching, and that's the end of it. It doesn't mean anything more or less than that. So with that, I would ask for your green light on this.
Hey, gentlemen, debate is open. Is there further debate on House Bill 602? Hearing none. Gentleman 14.
I had a question for good gentleman from
one. Would the good gentleman, District 1, yield to a question?
The gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Just had a question. What were the concerns that the firemen and the police unions had with this? What was their concern over this bill?
Gentleman from 1.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman from 14. I
14.
believe they thought that at some point in the future, these same issues could be applied to their public union.
Thank you. Further debate on the motion. Good lady from 8.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the good gentleman yield to another question?
Would the gentleman from in yield to a question from the good lady from 8?
Gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do we know of any incidences currently within the state of Idaho where any of these sections of code, new sections, would have been violated?
Good gentleman from 1.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good lady from 8. I have a long laundry list that I can read to you if you would like.
Well, don't read it.
I can start doing that here. So, increasing teachers' pay with the understanding that the salary enhancement will be used to pay teachers' union dues. Here in Boise, the school district provides a monthly salary enhancement that is commensurate with or for professional activities that is equivalent to the cost of teachers' union dues. Granting paid time off, there are 51 school districts that their contracts include provisions granting teachers paid time off to perform union work at taxpayer expense. There's 31 districts that provide unions privileged access to school facilities, and I can go on if you'd like.
That's good enough. Good lady from 8. Further debate on the motion. Gentleman 25.
Would the good gentleman from 1 yield to a question?
Gentleman from 1 yield to a question.
Gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
On page 4 of the bill, down on line letters J and K and L and all those, as I read that, it means that if a teacher is preparing to be terminated, they would not be able to have their union representative there while they were being, during the proceedings. Is that the way you read it? That's the way I read it.
Gentleman from 1.
Mr. Speaker, good gentleman, that's not the way I read the bill.
Gentleman 25.
Yield for a second question?
Would the gentleman yield to additional question?
So one of the concerns that have been
Gentleman will yield.
One of the questions been put forth, and the way I read this, I believe their concern is correct. One of the ones is that most schools, I was in one for 33 years, if you want your union dues to be removed from your check, from your income, as the check is provided, just like they take out for IRAs and lots of other things, that this bill would prohibit the school district from removing the money from the person's check, not from public funds, but the person's check, and then relaying that onto the Teachers Association.
Gentleman from 1.
Mr. Speaker, good gentleman, that specifically is not in this bill. That was something that was discussed earlier, but that the school district can still remove those union dues from the teacher's check with this bill.
I appreciate that. Do you debate the bill, sir?
Gentleman has the floor to debate the bill.
I still have concerns here, and I certainly, like others have said, I've been approached by my firefighters, my police, lots of other groups that say this is going to be happening to them next, and I appreciate their good service. Our first responders are always right there with my teachers, being first on the list for me. I'm not sure if it doesn't do the things you're saying, I'm not sure I understand why the bill. I mean, I certainly feel like that the Teacher Association, I contacted my superintendents in my area, and the superintendents talked about the fact that they're really having to hire a lot of teachers now that are coming through alternate certification, or they're coming out of the teachers, their degree in teaching, but they never get to student teaching. Somebody hires them before they make it through their student teaching because of shortage of teachers. And they were quite adamant that the Idaho Education Association helps them more in getting those alternate certification teachers and the ones that came out without student teaching, getting them ready to be in the classroom and help them while they're in the classroom far more than the State Department of Education does. And so yet it feels like an attempt to weaken the very group that's helping us with the teachers who need help. Because They came to us, this good body has passed in the past alternate certification so that we can have enough teachers. But those teachers need help. They're not ready to be teachers. Just because you have a degree in history doesn't mean you're ready to be a teacher. It doesn't work that way. It comes from experience in the classroom and experience and mentoring and help from other people before you become a teacher. I shudder to think how poor a teacher I was my first year, and I'd had student teaching. But without the help of the association, without the help of other teachers, without the help of my principal, I probably would have quit after that first year. I'd have went on to a different career, made a lot more money, I'm sure. But I stayed, made it through that first year, made it through my second year with that same help, and ended up with 33 years in education, and proud of my service to the state of Idaho and the Five-Star School District. Why try to weaken the very group that's helping our teachers to be better teachers and letting them to stay in the classroom? Because I'll guarantee you, if you have a really bad first year and a second year, you're not going to stick around very long. That's just the way it is. Ask any teacher in this room how they saw teachers who had a struggle in their first couple of years, and if they hadn't had the help they had, they would have no longer been in the profession. And sometimes it takes 3 years to become a good teacher. Okay? Let's not weaken one of those groups that's helping us, helping those very new teachers, the same teachers that we put into the classroom without going through the classes that help them at least have an understanding of how the science of the brain works and things like that, that they get through the college classes. They have to get it through experience with the people from the Education Association helping them. So please put a red on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. For debate on the motion, Gentleman 26.
Mr. Speaker, to debate, please.
Gentleman has the floor to debate the bill.
I would bring your attention to page 4, line 33. It's the the right of action portion of this. And after you read that, I would ask you to read on page 3, line 35. It says any discussion.
Okay.
Policy.
We will keep tabs on this if we get any other debate to come up, especially the sponsor. It looks like Sage Dixon, Representative Sage Dixon, is also a sponsor on this. It was listed as Dale Hawkins, but perhaps Representative Dixon is presenting it on this floor because he was being fielded with those questions. But that's fine. That's fine. Just want to keep everybody up to speed here. So we'll check back on this, and but we're going to take a quick break, and we will get reset, and maybe we'll go back to this live. So but we got a lot to come on. We got Senator Scott Herndon hopefully on deck to come join us about an important Second Amendment bill. So we will be back right after this.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
Idaho is a conservative state. That's why leftist billionaires and woke progressives are pushing the ranked choice runoff scheme. Their goal, a radical anti-gun equity agenda. Repeal stand your ground and constitutional carry and pass red flag gun confiscation. This is about taking our guns, destroying our freedom, radicalizing Idaho and changing our state forever. Stop them before it's too late. Open primaries and ranked choice voting will destroy Idaho. Don't let leftist billionaires turn our state into California.
There's a saying in Idaho, Esto perpetua. It is forever. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. Not without a fight. The Gem State is ours to fight for. It is ours to win. For life and liberty, for honesty and integrity. We ride together.
All right, we are back. Interesting, over in the Senate, they have moved forward here. They're debating House Bill 390, and we'll see how this passed in the House, because it obviously started in the House. It's got a House number on it, but Senator Kelly Anthon is debating this bill. This was presented by, or at least sponsored by, Senator Ben Taves, and this would amend existing law to authorize investigations and actions against city and county officers by the Attorney General. So apparently that's not necessarily in his purview. So they're going to put some more power in our chief law enforcement officer in the state, the Attorney General, to investigate things that are going on in the city and county levels. So let's listen to Kelly Anthon. We're going to check to see how it passed in the House and see what the vote was there. But let's listen to what Senator Anthon is talking about here just for a moment.
I'm welcome to continue to consider it, to talk about it. I think it needs some more thought, and I, for that reason, will reluctantly be voting no.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President.
Senator Schroeder.
Mr. President.
For a declaration?
Funny you should mention it. Yes, Your Honor, yes, Mr. President, I am, sorry. Rule 39H, I am a city attorney for many cities, not all of whom have officials who have committed crimes. Thank you.
Your declaration under the Senate rule will be noted in the journal. Is there further debate?
Mr. President.
Senator Lakey.
For a declaration as well. I also, my firm represents a number of cities, and I'm just going to stop there.
Senator Lakey, your declaration will be noted in the journal. Is there further debate on House Bill 390?
Mr. President.
Senator Conowitz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this is an interesting question. I certainly wasn't thinking about this bill before we came in today. I'm thinking about a little bit about how the FBI has the authority to investigate all the way down the line for anything really, but particularly when it comes to law enforcement at a local level, when they perhaps operate under a color of office in an improper way. Prosecutorial discretion I find to be an interesting topic, and I think it's one of those things that as an adult, it took me a while, even as an adult, to understand that prosecutors don't prosecute nearly as much as I think lay people believe they do. If they're presented with a crime, it's not automatically prosecuted. There's lots of considerations that go into it. So I find it kind of curious that an argument about prosecutorial discretion at the local level should trump prosecutorial discretion from a higher level. I don't feel terribly strongly about this one way or the other, but I don't see a huge problem with it either, philosophically. So I think I'll be voting for it, but I just wanted to share some of the thoughts about prosecutorial discretion, I guess. So thanks.
Thank you. Is there further debate?
Mr. President, to debate the bill.
You have the floor.
One thing I'm going to reflect as well on prosecutorial discretion. We put a lot of power into the hands of our county elected prosecutors. And a lot of their decisions are based on what they're going to be able to prove in the local court of law before a jury of peers beyond a reasonable doubt. But there also could be political considerations that are local that would cause them maybe to not get involved. This adds, in my opinion, another layer of oversight, another layer of discretion that is removed from the local situation. So they're removed from the local pressures and local politics. I know Bonner County right now, one of my counties, I always say if you used to like watching the Jerry Springer show, you can watch the Bonner County Commissioner meetings Tuesdays at 9:30 a.m. I use this opportunity to encourage my county elected officials to start getting along with each other. But there is alignment on different sides of the problems in Bonner County, and it makes it more difficult for the county prosecutor to maybe step into a situation. And sometimes we might have to have a possibility of removing that to a different level. And so in my case, the city of Sandpoint would be the one in question with this bill here. Same thing could happen to a city elected official, but it's still super local, and it still involves the politics that are going on in an area that may cause a prosecutor not to want to get involved. But it still needs some oversight, still needs, I think, that extra layer of discretion where someone could get involved and investigate allegations. And so for that reason, I encourage everybody to reconsider that there's those local things that could cause a prosecutor not to get involved for political reasons, and this would give us a layer of protection if there are crimes taking place at the city level.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Senator Winder,
debate the first time.
you're recognized to debate the first time.
Thank you. You know, when we consider these types of laws, we have to consider the future as well as the present. So we may feel very comfortable with our Attorney General today, and 5 years, 10 years from now, we may have someone in office that we don't feel very comfortable with, and they may use it for political reasons. So I just ask you to consider that as you think about this. And as far as I know, unless someone can correct me, local government has the ability to ask the Attorney General to assist them at any time they think the case is beyond their ability. Thank you.
Further debate? For the first time. Sarah Hart, you're recognized to debate the bill for a second time.
Earlier today, we heard the reason a bill might come before this body is because an event happened. It shed light on a situation that needed a legislative fix. That's exactly why this bill is here. And it meets the sort of the flavor of the Senator from number one's argument about local politics and local personalities and local relationships. This bill is here because there's a problem that needs more oversight. And I would encourage you to vote for the bill. Thanks.
Is there further debate? Hearing none. Senator Taves, you're recognized to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow senators, this is actually I think it's a very basic expansion of the AG's responsibilities. And I label it as an anti-corruption bill. And I have a question for you. What are we afraid of? What are we afraid of? This is talking about enforcing state criminal law. It would require the exact same judicial system, and it's just giving the AG the ability to deal with potential corruption at the local level. So it doesn't require the AG to get involved, but allows the AG to deal with state criminal law against a city officer when necessary. It's the reality is that county and city officials work very closely together quite often, so there needs to be an option. Sometimes it's not going to be really comfortable for the county to ask the AG to step in. There's gonna be situations where the AG can recognize that there's an issue, a criminal issue at the city level, and have the ability to investigate. But let's say that they do investigate. Let's just look at what the law actually says. If they decide to investigate an allegation of a violation of state criminal law against a city officer occupying an elective office for violation of state criminal law in his official capacity, this is what happens. Upon completion of the investigation, the Attorney General shall A, issue a finding of no further action necessary, B, suggest training or other non-judicial remedies, or C, determine that further investigation or prosecution is warranted. and retain the matter and act as special prosecutor. We're not talking about the heavy hand of the government here. We're talking about reasonable ways for the AG to provide necessary oversight at the local level. I encourage you to vote aye.
Debate is closed. The question before the Senate is, shall House Bill number 390 pass the Senate? The Secretary will call the roll.
Adams, Anthon, Berndt, Bierke, Burtonshaw, Carlson, Cook, Then Hartog, Foreman, Grow, Guthrie, Harris, Hart, Hartkin, Herndon, Just, Lakey, Lee, Lenny, Lent, Nichols, Okonowitz, Robbie, Ricks, Ruckty, Schroeder, Samora, Taylor, Taves, Trakel, Van Orden, Wardingle-King, Winder, Wintrow, Steiderveld, Anthon, Bierke, Burtonshaw, Lakey, Lee, Lenny, Ricks,
The vote count shows 17 in favor with 17 against, with one absent. President votes no. House Bill 390 has failed to pass
Wow.
the Senate. It will be returned to the House.
Wow.
President.
Wow.
I ask unanimous consent, the Senate return
They're gonna
to the fifth order of business.
we're probably gonna adjourn
Objection.
here.
The Senate return to the fifth order of business, presentation of petitions, resolutions, and memorials. That's at the fifth order.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent, the Senate advance the sixth order of business.
Without objection, the Senate.
All right,
advances
let's get out of this. I'll move on. So that was a fascinating there. You heard some of the arguments. It was, a lot of people thought that this was going to be that tight of a vote. But if you notice there, it was a tie vote, and whenever there's a tie vote, it goes to the president of the Senate, which is Lieutenant Governor Scott Bedke, and he voted no. Therefore, a bill that passed the House 54 to 15. 54 to 15. All Democrats in the House voted against this bill, and a couple of Republicans in the House. It gets to the Senate, and the tie-breaking vote, Lieutenant Governor Bedke sides with Democrats in the House. So there you have it. That's what's going on here in Idaho, folks. 15 people in the House, 18 people in the Senate voted against a bill that would authorize the Attorney General to do investigations of crimes in our cities and counties instead of leaving it up to the cities and counties to just conduct it. That's what's going on, folks. That's what's going on. Fascinating debate, fascinating outcome there. The Senate continues to be in session, so I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get Scott Herndon on to talk about this bill, but we're going to continue to move forward anyway, and if we have to save the clips that we had of his bill, we will, because we still want to make sure we pay attention to what's going on over there and what's going on in the House. I know we were following House Bill 602, the money going to unions. I don't know if we were able to capture that, if that's still happening or if they have adjourned, but we'll check on that too. Okay, I wanted to get you up to speed on what was happening in in House State Affairs this morning. So we talked about House Concurrent Resolution 31, which was the money that would go to the celebration of America. House Bill 584. Do we have that clip? House Bill for House Bill 584. This was a daylight savings time. We watched Joe Alfieri? Do we have that clip? Did I get a thumbs up? Was that on our list? Yeah. Okay. So Representative Joe Alfieri presented this bill to get rid of daylight savings time here in Idaho, and there was an interesting question that happened today. And he had a very interesting response to that. So let's listen to that. A little lightness for this. So let's listen to Representative Alfieri.
I will inform the committee of the opposition. Okay. This bill, it slightly differently came, I think, my first year, and it got the crow on the floor. I think there was just a handful of votes in favor of it. There's big concern of people having more daylight in the summer after they get off work and being able to go and recreate. I think that was the biggest concern I heard from that day, but just be ready.
Representative Alfieri, would you like to respond to that?
Representative Aldridge, Representative Andrus, this reminds me of cutting the top off a blanket and putting it on the bottom and thinking that you have a longer blanket. It just doesn't work.
Okay, nice one there. Okay, we got all discombobulated here. We went over to the Senate. We lost seeing what the exact vote was on 602. If you know what it was, put it in the chat so we can find out. Well, we'll find out too. But right now, I don't want to distract. This is the signal. We should be staying on target. But this bill has gotten a lot of attention, and I think the intention is because they want to keep us distracted. So, do we distract and watch the cannibalism bill that's being voted upon right now in the House? Bring up that shot. There's a lot of smiles, a lot of laughing going on, and obviously this isn't the most pressing issue, but maybe it is. There's been a lot of back and forth. This is a precedent. This could be I mean, I don't want to unknowingly eat humans in my food or in the way that it was grown. It was in compost that was used to grow our food. So that's an interesting aspect of this bill. And Representative Heather Scott has been running this bill. She's been getting a lot of attention for it because, as you can see, cannibalism is total clickbait. And so that's what's going on right now. If it was interesting, if there was something really telling about this, we'll provide some clips for it. But we'll pay attention. We'll see how it goes. I'm certain it's probably going to pass. I can't imagine not. But we're not going to get distracted on that. We want to keep going here. So if you want to watch the cannibalism bill, then you can go do so on your own. Or we'll have clips tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. How's that for clickbait? Come back tomorrow for clips on the cannibal bill. Okay, I needed to get you up to speed. I mean, we just did our own distraction with the daylight savings time, but that's very important. It is very important. Okay, you guys have got to hear about this bill here, because later today there's a lot of bills in committee that are coming up later today, and one of them. Oh, this was House Resolution 6. We talked about that. House Bill 584. House Bill 584 no, that's the daylight savings time. Why did I print all these out? We didn't even look at them. This is the bill, 1390. Later today, in the Senate, they're going to be looking at the State Affairs Committee, or no, I think it's in the Commerce and Human Resources Committee. It's Senate Bill 1390, and this is an adjustment to the launch program. They are, if you remember, this is the in-demand careers. You've probably been hearing radio stations play commercials for it, or billboards around, or ads in the paper, or whatever. But this is that $8,000 free money being given to recent graduates of high school to go off and get employment training so they can go get hired by a company. And rather than having companies pay to train their own employees, or rather than these adults to pay for their own continued education, your government in Idaho, on a very contentious vote, voted to spend $80 million every year, at least, giving out $8,000 free money to adults, young adults, but adults nonetheless, to go learn a new skill, rather than them having to do it on our own. So it's a very contentious bill. But one of the things that this new bill comes in, it's Senate Bill 1390. And what they're doing is they're going to redefine what an in-demand career is. This was all about saying, oh, there's so many in-demand careers in Idaho. We need to push the people into these in-demand careers. We need to tell people that you should go choose from a list of in-demand careers rather than go pursue your own dreams. I don't know. There's some sort of dystopian novel that speaks of this, but so currently the current law says in-demand careers mean this. It means careers that have a high number of openings in Idaho, or an expected high rate of growth in Idaho. In-demand careers are to be determined annually by the council. So there is a council, and so currently, right now, that's the definition of in-demand careers. It's certainly pretty general, and the council is the one that will determine what those in-demand careers are. But now this bill wants to redefine that, and it says in-demand careers. Means careers that have a positive economic output for the state of Idaho. And it increases economic mobility for the people of Idaho. Factors including, but not limited to, the number of openings, the rate of growth, the transferability of the skills, and the length of the training program, and the wage potential can be incorporated to create a matrix of careers and training programs that align to in-demand careers. Careers that require a master's degree or higher shall not be included. So here we go. The government is just getting in there and creating all these new definitions and trying to figure. This is the problem. When we start meddling with the free market, when we start meddling with people's own personal desires of their career. We now have a council that will sit here. In Idaho, we have a council that will sit here and decide which careers these grants can be given to. If you want to give money to recent graduates of high school to go off and learn a skill or learn something, why are we putting all of these crazy restrictions on it? Because it's public money, or because it's benefiting your corporate friends? What's the reason? We shouldn't be doing any of this. This is not the job of government. How is this protecting our rights? It's spending our money. It's spending our money. It's ridiculous. This is what they waste time on. That cannibalism bill is not a waste of time compared to this. So maybe we should go back to the cannibalism bill. Thank you, Heather Scott, for the cannibalism bill. We don't want. That's incredible. All right. Do we need to take a break? We only got a few minutes left. The Senate is at ease, so they're not going to be adjourning. So we're not going to get Senator Scott Herndon on today. We'll try again tomorrow. This is what happens. The House is also finishing up. We got let's see if we can find out what those bills were that were up there today. We'll see if we can find the counts. I've got a couple of other loose ends that I want to tie up, so let's do that. So we'll take a short break and then we'll come right back.
Surplus, which is not a surplus, it's an overcharging of the taxpayers.
There's a saying in Idaho, Esto perpetua. It is forever. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. Not without a fight. The Gem State is ours to fight for. It is ours to win. For life and liberty. For honesty and integrity. We ride together.
Okay, we are back. The House is the one that was at ease. The Senate has adjourned. And so we're going to have to reschedule Scott Herndon when we can. Apologies for that. Okay, because we got to do some action here. We got to do some action. Where are the bills? Where are the bills? We've got these 4 bills that have passed the House in large numbers. This wasn't close. These weren't close votes. These were large numbers, 45 plus. One of them I think was like 58. These are large numbers. So the House passed these 4 bills, and they are currently sitting in. Oh, it's clipped. I don't know. We had this graphic up before, and it's clipped, but that white port. Okay, well, maybe they'll fix it. Sharing the wrong. There it is. All right. The Senate State Affairs Committee. These 4 bills were passed a while ago. I had the date. I had the dates yesterday or the other day, but I don't have them now. But these were a while ago. Some of them were over a month ago. The House passed House Bill 415, which ends gun-free zones. It allows people that have enhanced carry permits to school staff to, if they have an enhanced carry permit, to wear a firearm if they so choose as a last line of defense on school campus, and to remove these ridiculous gun-free zones signs. I mean, they're atrocious. They're advertisements for bad guys. House Bill 421 defines sex and gender. This is a very important bill because it sets the definitions in statute of what sex, gender, and a few other things are. And once we have those definitions uniform across the board, then it'll allow all these other bills that are dealing with this, that are out there trying to protect children, trying to protect families, and trying to bring some sanity to our culture here and to our land. It allows those bills to move forward with clear definitions in statute. House Bill 493 is the mask mandate. Can you believe we are still dealing with mask mandates? We talked about a little bit about this yesterday. House Bill 464 is the border compact. This would allow Idaho to say, hey, we have a compact with other states in order to take care of what's happening down at the border. In fact, today in House State Affairs, there was a resolution that was going to come out to support Texas and their fight against the federal government in securing their own border. So this is a very there's a bunch of things out there that deal with the border security and the invasion that's happening, and this is one of them. House Bill 464. Once again, they all passed the House not unanimously. Getting hyperbolic here. They all passed the House overwhelmingly, and now they are sitting in the Senate State Affairs Committee waiting to die. I mean, this is where bills go to die. Call up 208-332-1326. That is the committee's phone number. Call them, leave them a message. They have a very great secretary there who will take your message. So be kind. You're going to talk to a real person when they pick up the phone, if they pick it up. And you just say, hey, I want, pick one of these bills, pick all of them, look at what's in the committee and say, hey, you guys need to have a hearing. That's all we're asking for, is to have a hearing on these bills. They had a hearing in the House, then they got passed, and now they're in the Senate and have to go through the same process. So we just want another hearing. We want to hear senators. We want to get them on the record. We want to know where they stand when it comes to these bills. We just watched debate on a bill that all of a sudden all these Republicans and Democrats voted with the Democrats in the House. And then you got Lieutenant Governor voting with the Democrat to stop any oversight of the Attorney General looking at what's going on in our cities and counties. Incredible. The email is there as well. I know I'm going off tangents here, but the email is there as well. So please give them a call. We are on fire right now. We've got a lot of live viewers in. It's pretty great. So let's I thank you for joining us. There is we won't have time to play this either, but I personally got involved in a great project called The Extremist Files. Don't play it, guys. Don't play it. And it's a cartoon that deals with the absurdity of being called extremists, right? And it really shines a light on who the actual extremists are. So go to my Twitter feed and find that one. That's just a tease. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, that is a tease. We will show it tomorrow. I'll be on X tonight in an X space talking about it. So if you want more info, find us on X tonight. All right, just a quick plug there. Okay, we are nearing the end here. I want to thank you guys for joining us. I want to thank once again all the folks that came out yesterday. The crew did a great job. We all pitched in to fire up the feed out there. Dave Miller, owner of Life, Dave and Brooke, owner of Life Public House. Big shout out to them for letting us come in and take over the stage down there. And for those who came out and sat with us and asked questions, thank you again for watching and for being a fan of the show, and for more importantly for being involved. I mean, again, this is not for your entertainment. This is to be involved. And I had several people come up to me and thank us for showing you ways to get involved. And that's what we want to continue to do here. So make sure you go to idahosignal.com, drop us a line, send us a message. If you care to donate, you can do it through there. You get a chance to watch our opening montage as well, because it's awesome. We've got great legislators fighting for liberty in Idaho, and we can't do it without you and your support. So keep in touch with your legislators who are fighting for liberty, and we will see you back tomorrow for the Friday show. We'll pick up where we left off. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Take care.
This bill, I think, it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.